let's dig a little deeper into how habits work with the neuroscience of habits for a moment. So every habit follows what's known as the habit loop. Now, this concept, made famous by Charles Duhigg in his book, The Power of Habit, he explains that all habits consist of three parts: the cue, the routine, and the reward. So the cue is the trigger that starts the habit. It could be anything. It could be an emotion, a time of day, a specific location, or even another behavior. If you have a habit of procrastinating when you're overwhelmed, feeling overwhelmed is your cue. Now, the routine is the behavior you engage in. In the case of procrastination, your routine might involve distracting yourself with something that feels less stressful, like watching TV or scrolling on your phone. And the reward is the benefit you get from performing the behavior. Maybe procrastinating gives you temporary relief from stress or allows you to escape the pressure of a big task. Understanding this loop is crucial because it allows you to identify where you can intervene. So instead of trying to force yourself to be productive all the time, you can focus on changing one part of the loop at a time. So start with identifying your cue. What's triggering your procrastination or laziness? Once you're aware of it, you can work on replacing the routine with something more productive. Now that we understand the habit loop, let's look at some practical strategies for breaking the limiting habits and shifting them into positive ones. The first step is to identify your cues. Identify what's triggering your habit. If you procrastinate, what's the trigger? Is it boredom? Is it stress? Is it overwhelm? Sometimes just identifying the trigger is enough to break the habit because you bring it up to the surface. Once you've identified the cue, the second step is to create a new routine. So you want to start focusing on changing the routine. So let's say, for example, stress is your cue for procrastination. Instead of diving into distractions, break your task down into smaller, more manageable steps. Or use the 2-minute rule. Tell yourself you'll work on it for just 2 minutes. Often, once you start, it's easier to keep going. The next step is to reward yourself for positive change. And this is a crucial part of the habit loop. If you remove the negative habit, replace it with something positive, okay? So after completing a task, reward yourself with a break or a walk or something that feels good but doesn't distract you. Perhaps it's grabbing a cup of tea. And the fourth step is to practice self-compassion. Perhaps you've heard me mention this on my channel before, and I will always mention it. But you see, changing habits isn't easy and it doesn't happen overnight. So on this journey, it's critical to be kind to yourself during the process. For example, if you slip up and fall back into old habits, don't label yourself a failure. Instead, remind yourself that it's just a habit and you're working on it.